everybody, it's Jacki, Jing, and I'm with Dr. Natacha Nelson.
Hi!
Welcome to the Mental Health A to Z podcast, and for today we are going to be talking about the differences between being nice and being kind. And when I say that out loud, I'm like, okay, doctor, I don't really quite know what the difference is.
Yes.
So maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. I'm so glad you brought it up because
Yeah.
it is one of those that when you fully understand it, it's a life changer. The whole idea of being nice and being a people pleaser and doing what everybody says versus doing what you feel is right, and how to do that in a way that's kind. That's kind to yourself, kind to other people. There's a difference, but it's like, it's such a, when you understand it, you go, oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But when you don't, you're like, well, I'm trying to be nice, but I'm trying to be kind. So.
I want to give you a little plug
Yes.
really quickly.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so this is Dr. Nelson's book, Finding Courage to Let You Out, and it is awesome. I'm absolutely loving it, and I just wanted to bring it up because you talk about your life in here, like, she's holding nothing back. Like, it's literally
I put
like
it all.
her life A to Z. And one thing I noticed in there, though, is that during your life, you were really, really nice to people. Like,
Yes.
you constantly made yourself second. You constantly put your feelings aside to make other people comfortable. And I feel like I've kind of struggled with that in my life, too.
Yeah.
And I'll find myself... I honestly feel like sometimes people look at me like I'm weak and they like bully me because they sense like this weakness, or they know like I'm not going to put my foot down about stuff, you know?
Yep.
And honestly, this book, you guys have to read this book. Like, there's so many parts of it that are so relatable to me. But one thing that I really connected with was that you really were a people pleaser. And
Yeah.
I hope this isn't sounding
Not at
negative
all.
to
Not
say.
at all.
It's just that you worried so much about making people happy. And while I'm reading this book, like, I'm like, oh my God, Natasha, like, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and the realization for me came when I had my own practice. And I remember setting hours of, okay, I'll start at 7 a.m. with patients, and the last patients would be at like 6 o'clock at night so that I could be done and out of the office by 7. And this is before I had a family.
That's an incredibly long work
It's
day.
a long work day. I had a long break. I would
Yeah.
take a lunch break between 11 and 1 or 11 and 2. So I can go play volleyball or go work out.
Yes.
But what would happen is somebody would say, hey, I can't be there at 7. Can I come at 6:45? And even though I didn't want to, I'd be like, okay, go ahead and come in at 6:45. And then somebody else was like, oh, well, if you're at 6:45, well, maybe today you can do 6:30. And then I'd be like, oh, I don't want to, but I would. And that whole fight between myself of, you know, I don't want to, but I feel like I have to, and I feel like I should because it's business. You know, there's something about this idea of, because I'm doing it for my business and for money, that I'm supposed to say yes. And then, of course, well, I'm a doctor. Well, then, of course, I'm supposed to say yes to helping somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's really, in writing the book, is really what helped me get clarity on how to stop the whole being nice and taking care of myself, and at the same time taking care of other people.
Yeah, I just don't know how to find that balance.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, I constantly, like, in my relationships with my parents, like, I've always just wanted them to be happy, wanted to please them. With the relationships with guys, I've just wanted them to be happy, wanted to please them. At work, I just wanted to make sure that they were like 100% wanting me. And I read this quote recently, and it was like, stop worrying about being perfect and just worry about like harmonious relationships, you know? And I realized that I pushed away a lot of boyfriends because I was trying so hard, and they were just like, whoa, like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, they either felt an imbalance or something. Still trying to figure that stuff out with my parents. I'm like, I love them both to death, but like, definitely that's still not 100%
It's always the hardest
resolved.
things with parents.
And with jobs, I've definitely had workplace environments where I think that maybe me trying too hard and me like just wanting so much for them to appreciate me, like, it actually ended up hurting me.
Yeah.
So like, gosh, I'm just like, where do you find this balance? You know what I mean?
And for me, it came when it started when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was still going to work and trying to adjust, and my belly was getting bigger. And there was a point where I remember being like physically hurting. I must have been about 6 or 7 months pregnant. And I remember just going, oh my gosh, I physically can't do this. And it was a turning point because I realized I wasn't able to take care of me, but because I had this baby growing, I was very stern. And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to start adjusting until 8 o'clock. And no, I'm not going to stay late. And no, I was able to say no because I had a strong sense of I need to take care of my body. Really, I need to take care of my baby.
Yeah.
And then when she was born, it's like, well, with her here, it made it so easy to say no to people because I was doing it for her.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing that she gave me the excuse to say no to people, but it felt so good and so empowering. And realizing that if I stood my ground and said, no, I can't start at that time, and people would just go, oh, okay, well, then I'll come at your normal hours.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time somebody said that I went, well, shit.
Yeah.
Why have I been allowing them to come in here whenever they want? If I could just tell them these are the hours and hold to it, they would show up during my regular hours.
Yeah.
And that was the first time and the first taste of really standing up for myself, but doing it through my daughter first, and then learning what that felt like. And then I started to just go, okay. Then I had to. Well, she was in school, so I had to be, really restrictive in the hours. And with that started that space of, I started feeling good physically, emotionally, mentally, and then just realized, okay, well, I did it for her. Now I have to learn how to do that same, but using myself as treating myself the same way I would treat my daughter. And that's really
I was gonna say help me because I don't have a daughter.
Yeah.
So I guess like my big question is how do you put those boundaries in place? Because I know that I had made boyfriends a priority and I really made their happiness a priority, and I was just like dead on the inside and super sad and unhappy. You know what I mean? And I don't want to feel like that anymore. And I don't know. I'm just like, I hope I can find like this balance because I just feel like for some reason I don't know what I need to do. Do I need to put out a different aura?
Yeah.
Do I need to start doing exercise?
Well, you need to clear out your own energy. And part of how that shows up is being clear on what it is you want. When my daughter was born, it was very clear. She's number one, always number one, and she will always be what I measure everything that I do against. So if somebody wanted to come in, I used to have Saturday office hours. And then when she was born, someone goes, well, can you come in on a Saturday? I was like, well, no, because I'm with my daughter. Yeah. And what happened is that everything that she became like such a big vision for me and a big purpose of how I structured my life, that I realized that when you have a purpose of what's important and the clarity of what you want, everything that you do and every decision you make is measured against that. So then it makes it easy to go, okay, if my child is my number one priority, her health, her safety, her well-being, is me going to work extra hours really benefiting her? Yes or no? And I went, no. Okay, then I won't do it. Like I stopped taking the emotional component out and I just measured everything based on what is the vision and purpose of what I'm doing. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't mean to cut you off.
I know.
I'm just laughing because it's like this is so obvious. This is so obvious. But then why? Like I'm like literally looking back at my last 3 relationships, and it's like the men were not clear on what they wanted. I was not clear on what I wanted, and so then it just ended up like being 4 months of boom, 3 months, boom, 8 months, boom. You know what I mean? And it's like because I was not saying what I wanted. I didn't know what they wanted. And it was just like this, all 3 of them were just awful because nobody knew what the other person wanted. And it's like, why couldn't we just be upfront about that? I know this sounds obvious, but it's like, it's not that obvious. People don't do that.
It's not until you hear it. And then it resonates to go, oh, that's a good idea. Let me try it. Yeah. So if you think of it in terms of, let's say, being a professional athlete, and let's pick volleyball. Yeah. Let's say like our goal, and I was in that age where I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to play in the Olympics. Then you structure all your workouts, all your meals, everything around how to train, what you need to do to get to the Olympics. And then if somebody came to you and said, oh my God, I have this amazing workout and triathletes do it and you're going to run 26 miles, you'd be like, no, like that is not in alignment with being a professional volleyball athlete. Yeah. And although it could be a fantastic diet and training regimen, if you are not training for an ultra marathon, you don't need to be doing those activities.
Yeah.
So when you get clarity on what you want, then it's really easy to pick, oh, no, and then it's just a yes, no question. And then if there's any gray area, you just gather more information. You're like, am I clear on what I want? Mm-hmm. Sometimes somebody, or it can be in your life that you're not sure of. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. You just give it some more time, get some more information, and let it show up. And then there'll be a definite yes or no. Keep or stay. Keep or stay. Friends, people you date, coworkers, colleagues, everything will become clear. Yes or no, stay or go.
Yeah, so I think like the big thing is like I gotta figure out what I want.
Yes.
For sure. Another thing that like kind of comes to mind when I'm thinking about this topic is just a lot of times I'll find myself in situations where people are super abrasive with me and I just am like, okay, Jackie, like be the bigger person here and you know, just like, just don't say anything or, you know what I mean? And then I end up just later being like, God, I really should have put like my foot down about that stuff. And I don't know if you have any advice when it comes to things like that.
And there's a before you actually can speak up or speak out for yourself, you have to figure out what it is you want to say. Mm-hmm. And sometimes just being clear on what you would want to say or do gives you the clarity on how to handle a situation. And so if you are, you know, being what you would call mistreated. You're dating this guy and he's just not, I don't know, he's not necessarily bad, but it's not really great. And there's something.
Have I used that example?
And there's just something, he's not treating you really the way you want. Well, first, if you were clear on what you'd want, then you would know whether it was, you know, good or bad. It's like, so then you start to look at behaviors. And if it's a behavior that on the surface doesn't seem bad, but it doesn't feel good, then you know, then it needs to be addressed. But you have to do it on your own self and terms first to figure out why you don't like it. Mm-hmm. What bothers you about it? So that when you approach somebody to have a conversation, you're clear about why this behavior is not okay and what do you want instead. Because if all you do is just point and say, I don't like when you do that. When you do that, it just makes me shut down and pissed off and want to run away. That is not going to get you anywhere and it just hurts more. Mm-hmm. So if you're clear on what you want and then you're clear on what you need to say, you're also clear on what you're asking for. Most people, if you tell them this is what I need or what I would like, they have the option to say no. And then you know, like, okay. But the truth that when you ask with clarity, most people are like, oh, that's what you wanted? Well, then that's what I can give you.
Yeah, I think like one problem with my last relationship was like I would be like, okay, like I want this, and then automatically like the person would be like, I don't want drama, I don't want to deal with this stuff. I mean, like that then and there is like someone not justifying your feelings, and you just need to be like, okay, this person like doesn't care about my thoughts and I should probably create distance with this person. But it's not even, that's like a example of a relationship, but like this happens to me. I was telling you, like I'll play volleyball with people and like, you know, we'll like hit knees or something and the girl will like get in my face and start yelling at me and I'm just like, okay. And then I just kind of like back away and I like just don't say anything. And then like on the inside I'm like, why is she like bullying me like this and being mean to me? Like, you know what I mean? And I don't say anything. I guess it's just like, with that situation, is it like even worth engaging?
Well, so so how to approach something like that, which is, if you're playing with volleyball and it's the first time you're playing with this person and this happens, there is a little bit of, well, I don't know. Because you don't know their behavior. Yeah. If you play with them consistently and they consistently have the same way of being and that's how they act, then you have to go, okay, do I like this person? I really want to hang out with this person and play volleyball with them. Yeah. Why am I playing with them if there are other people to play with?
Yes.
So, so then you start to go, well, before I give up on them, take them aside off the court, not during a game, not during playing, and just say, hey, you know, if something happens, like I'll work it out. We'll figure it out. We don't need to be mad at each other. Yeah. Let's just, play our best, do our best and be okay.
I think that's really important is like the response, right?
Yeah.
Because like one thing I hate to go to your book again, but one thing that's great about Dr. Nelson is that like in this book she calls it like her rage monster.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So, but you like quell your rage monster like really well, I think. Like,
well, I do now because I understand when it's showing up, but
Yeah.
I really take the time to understand why it's showing up.
yeah,
And
that's exactly where I was like,
Yes.
your response is so much different than like what my response is, because either
Yes.
mine is like I just hold it inside and then I just like blow up and like cry later, or I like literally lash out on the person and I'm like super pissed off. You know,
and
what I
that's
mean?
where, and that's just the experience of me being a few years older than you. That
Yeah.
I used to be just like that.
Yeah.
I would either stuff it all, say nothing, and then it would blow up, or I would just go home and cry and be so upset that I didn't know how to speak up and stand up for myself. And so recognizing that that rage was just for me to start to go, okay, I didn't like how that person treated me. And then now it's my work to say, well, I have to make the decision to say either I speak to this person and tell them how to treat me, or and then give them the option. If they don't want to treat me the way I want to be treated, then I walk away and leave. And I've ended friendships, I've ended relationships, I've ended, co-working people I've worked with and colleagues, because there's a place where you just go, listen, this is how I want to be treated. And if you're not going to treat me that way, I'm going to treat myself that way, and I'm out. And
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay if somebody can't meet you with what with your needs. You have needs, you have wants. This is what you would like. Doesn't mean everybody has to agree, and it's okay.
Yeah, I think we wanted to make this a separate topic, but I'm kind of like going into it now. So that this is all really obvious. Like, be clear on what you want. Well, you think it'd be obvious, but it's not.
Yeah.
Figure out what you want to say or do, and like respond in like the correct manner, and give them an option. Like, this is not making me happy. So either we change
Yeah.
it or like I need to get out of here. But now I'm like, why do we keep toxic people in our lives after we have like a conversation like this? Because like I know I've had these conversations and I've still like stayed with that boyfriend or still
Yeah.
stayed friends with that person.
Yeah, because anytime you break up with anybody, friend or partner, it doesn't feel good. It
Yeah.
sucks. It's a crappy feeling. And especially when you think about all of the wonderful qualities of that person and things that you love about that person, and you realize that you don't get to have half of them. You can't have the good without the parts that are difficult. And then you just make a decision to go, well, what I'm giving up in what could be fun and loving and amazing, it's not worth keeping if I have to deal with the stuff that really, really hurts. And the stuff that hurts the most is when somebody betrays you and somebody is unwilling to see you, unwilling to acknowledge you, unwilling to just recognize who you are and the person that you are and the kind of person that you are. And you just get to a place you go, God, I'm going to miss this person. I love this person, but it hurts too much to be around that person. And then you just, okay. And it hurts. And part of why we stay is because we don't want to go through the pain of the part that hurts. And just like any breakup, yes, it hurts and it's going to hurt. And it, on some level, always just, there's a sadness that that person is no longer in your life. But the feeling of just being able to know you're not going to, somebody in your life is not going to beat you up emotionally, is just a freedom to just go, oh, okay, I don't have to tolerate bad behavior from people.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard and it hurts though, and you can cry and miss them. And there are people that I love from a distance now, and I miss them, and it's okay. And I just think about it and just go, and then you open your sphere and other people come in who will treat you the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, I think I just, because my childhood wasn't as great and I didn't feel love there, I get super attached to any relationship, you know what I mean? Because like I'm just like, oh wow, like Jacki, somehow you've developed some sort of relationship with someone, and like I become super loyal, which I think is a good quality, you know what I mean? But then it's like I deal with a lot of crap. You know what I mean? Like I deal with a lot of abusive behavior because of that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, I guess you could just say,
well, I think that we'll have to, that'll be a separate, topic, because the where that comes from, and yes, how we've interpreted our childhood with our parents creates an operating system in us. And it's that operating system that's constantly, every time when we see people, there's an energy. They may not look like our parents, and this is friendships and dating and people where they don't look like our parents, but there's something about them that reminds us of them. Even if it's unconscious, we're drawn to them. And so, yes, we'll replay the same childhood scenarios, even though we don't like them, but because they are familiar, and that's what we did as a child. So when you start your childhood and that's what you do, you just keep doing it until you learn to do something different. And so we can go more into that on a different day, because there's a lot to say about that. But
we're at our 20-minute mark too. So
Yeah.
Maybe next time we can talk about letting go of toxic people. But just to recap again, clear on what you want.
Yes.
Figure out what you want to say or do when you feel like you're in a tough situation. This is what I need. Ask for it with clarity. And then respond to people, but you need to do it in a calm manner and take some time, get the right information, and you have to just be like, okay, I have to have the strength to walk away and leave this.
Yes.
And if you don't, well, we'll talk about it next week.
If you don't, it comes back again and again and again until you finally pass the test.
I think like the biggest thing I've learned from like our topics is that I need to know myself, and I need to know what I want, and I need to demand it and like be putting up boundaries and walls earlier. But I think one thing, like, you know, we've discussed this before, but one thing that I really got out of today was that you need to understand what they want too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a two-way street. It's not like, because I knew what I wanted. I wanted a tall, handsome, really sweet guy who like we could go on a bunch of adventures with and like have a great time. And then I found out one guy was super needy and super clingy, and you know, there was things I liked about that, but I wasn't quite sure at first. So then I was like trying to stream and play video games, and then it pissed him off, you know. Then again, I've dated another guy who I was like doing my own thing, streaming, playing video games, doing a ton of stuff, and then I was like, dude, are we gonna ever hang out?
Well, and you hit, you know, and you're very clear. So when you are clear on what you want, you also know how to ask the questions to make sure that the person you are with is clear on what they want.
Yeah.
And then you can come as equals, and you're still going to work things out. You're still going to figure it out. But if you both have to be clear, at least on some level of what you want, so that you know what you're working with. Know in advance what you're working with or what you're willing to work with, and you just go from there. So it's a process.
I just thought of something. I think that being kind is not only being clear on what you want, but also understanding what the other person wants. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this.
Yay!
I got it. But I mean, like, I think that there's always been a disconnect. You know what I mean? So it's so funny because it's like, being nice, I don't know what they want, and I'm getting either I'm pissing them off or they're pissing me off. You know what I mean?
Because if you don't know what they want, you're trying all these things. Be like, do you like that? Is that okay? Does that work? Is that going to be okay? Whereas if they just told you what they wanted, you'd be like, well, great. It's so much easier. Then you would do, you know, within your boundaries and your reason, you would do what fits for them. You wouldn't have to guess and trying to figure it out to please them. So much easier.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, go get her book and go follow her on Instagram. It's at Natacha_life doctor.
Yes.
Okay. Yay. I got
Yay.
it right. Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
See ya.